All right, welcome to this explainer on ancient wisdom from modern anxiety. Today, we're diving straight into a pretty wild paradox about the way we live now. I mean, objectively speaking, our physical living conditions are better than at literally any other point in human history. We can summon any food we want with the tap of our fingers, we fly across the globe in a matter of hours, and we're all walking around with supercomputers in our pockets. But despite all of that incredible convenience, there's just this collective, heavy cloud hanging over us, isn't there?
So let's kick things off with a massive question. If we have all this unprecedented wealth and convenience, why do so many of us wake up feeling so anxious and, well, inadequate? We constantly worry that our jobs aren't good enough, our homes are too small, or maybe our kids aren't excelling fast enough. And then, of course, we open up social media. We scroll through perfectly curated vacation photos, and we literally can't help but wonder, wait, is everyone else's life just way better than mine? We're totally stuck in this relentless cycle of chasing more.
It's a massive disconnect. On one hand, we've got all this modern wealth, the air conditioning, the instant food delivery, the mind-blowing tech, but on the other hand, we're stuck with a modern mindset that is just plagued by anxiety. All of these amazing external comforts haven't even put a dent in our internal crises. In fact, the relentless rat race and this constant digital comparison game, it's left us feeling incredibly empty and just mentally exhausted.
To really understand this, we have to talk about the hedonic treadmill. 7. That's the magic number. 7 days is the exact amount of time you are absolutely thrilled when you buy that shiny, new, incredibly expensive smartphone. You pull it out of your pocket just to stare at it. But, fast forward 6 months, it's just a piece of glass. A year later, the new model drops and suddenly you're itching for the next upgrade. The problem isn't the phone at all. The problem is that we're trying to fill a bottomless psychological void with physical objects that are constantly changing.
Section 1. Demystifying Buddhist Philosophy, the Original Brain Science.
Now, here's where we really need to separate religion from philosophy, which is super important. When a lot of us hear the word Buddhism, we immediately picture temples, burning incense, and very specific religious rituals. But Buddhist philosophy is actually an entirely different beast. It functions a lot more like ancient brain science or psychology. It asks the tough questions. Where does emotional pain actually come from? Why do our moods swing so wildly? You absolutely do not need to be religious to study these concepts, just like you don't need to be a physicist to understand gravity. It's simply about observing the mechanics of your own mind.
And through that kind of observation, we hit the absolute root of the problem: attachment. This is the core psychological root of our suffering. We are constantly outsourcing our happiness to external validation. Think about it. If your joy relies entirely on things that are guaranteed to change, like stock market trends, what other people think of you, or the stuff you own, well, you're basically baking a cake made of constant anxiety. This brings us to a famously mind-bending quote from the ancient Heart Sutra: "Form is emptiness, emptiness is form." Now, I know at first glance that sounds super abstract, but it's actually really practical. It simply means that while material things, the form, definitely exist, their nature is completely fluid. They are impermanent. Therefore, relying on them as the sole anchor for your emotional security is a really bad bet.
Building right on top of that, the Diamond Sutra gives us this incredible insight: dwell nowhere and bring forth the mind. What this translates to for us today is that it's totally fine to pursue dreams, to hustle, to want success. The danger is when you let those things completely define who you are. If you fail a huge exam or get passed over for a promotion, you're obviously allowed to feel disappointed. But you absolutely cannot let that one event crush your ultimate self-worth.
Section 2. Mindfulness in the mundane. So, how do we actually apply this stuff in the real world? Let's look at our daily habits for a second. How often are you scrolling while you eat? Be honest. We've always got a video playing, we're firing off texts, we are completely 100% distracting ourselves from the present moment. Half the time, by the time the plate is empty, we haven't even tasted the food.
You see, true mindfulness doesn't mean packing up and moving to a silent monastery. You can break that cycle of mental clutter right at your kitchen table. Just put the phone in another room. Actually notice the aroma and the texture of your meal. Ground yourself in the physical reality of right now. It sounds ridiculously simple, I know, but forcing that intentional pause is like a superpower.
And if you want to level up, try what we like to call a daily micro-retreat. Again, no need to flee to the mountains. You create a sanctuary right in your living room. Turn off the TV, ditch the phone, find a quiet corner, sit down and focus entirely on your breathing for just 10 minutes.
In a world that is screaming for your attention 24/7, giving yourself 10 minutes of intentional quiet is literally the ultimate rebellion against anxiety.
Section 3. The Grand Convergence. Universal Truths. When we zoom out and look at a macro perspective, there is this incredible grand convergence across human history. Look past the cultural differences, and whether you're studying Buddhism, Christianity, or Islam, the world's major belief systems actually prescribe the exact same psychological antidote for human anxiety. The rituals are different, sure, but the core mechanism, identical. It's all about shifting your focus away from yourself, shrinking the ego, and connecting to something way bigger.
Let's break that down. In everyday life, the Buddhist approach is all about dropping that ego. Say someone completely cuts you off in traffic. You could react with insane road rage, screaming, completely ruining your entire day over a minor hit to your pride. Or you could just acknowledge that yelling won't change what happened, take a deep breath, and actively protect your own peace. Over in the Christian framework, the antidote is shifting your focus outward through unconditional love and grace. The source material has a brilliant example. Imagine a lonely retiree sitting at home, feeling empty and purposeless. By shifting their focus outward, maybe volunteering at an orphanage or helping out the elderly, they actually cure their own emptiness. By stepping up to heal others, they end up healing themselves. And similarly, Islam literally builds physical interruptions right into the daily grind. It doesn't matter how slammed you are at work, the requirement to pray 5 times a day forces you to basically log out of the rat race and practice surrender. On top of that, there's zakat, a mandatory system of charity. It ensures you aren't just hoarding wealth, but you are actively, tangibly supporting the vulnerable people in your community. So, the big picture here, it's crystal clear. In one corner, we have the ego, obsessed with success, terrified of looking bad, totally wrapped up in self-image. That right there is the birthplace of anxiety. But in the other corner, we have the altruist. Across all these ancient traditions, the universal cure for modern mental exhaustion is exactly the same. Shrink your ego and expand your service to others.
Section 4. Redefining True Freedom.
Modern culture constantly screams at us that freedom means buying whatever we want, jet-setting across the globe, and just accumulating massive wealth. But here's the catch. If your happiness relies 100% on that wealth, or on how many likes you get, or how people perceive your status, you aren't actually free. You are a prisoner to the external world. If the stock market dips, your joy dips. If someone leaves a mean comment, your whole day is ruined. That is the exact opposite of freedom. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. What does true freedom actually look like for you? Seriously, ask yourself, can you maintain your internal peace even when the market tanks, your big plans completely fall apart, or you face really harsh criticism? Because the moment you train your mind to stay steady while the external world is absolute chaos, that is the moment you have finally, truly escaped the rat race.